So, thank you everyone who is joining us today for our webinar on the power of customer data validation and improving location intelligence. My name is Ashley McCreary and I'm a marketing coordinator here at Service Objects, and I'll be helping Rob Manser out throughout the webinar. This webinar should only take about 45 minutes. We will have a Q&A section at the end, but please feel free to ask any of your questions throughout the webinar using the chat button below, and we will make sure we get to them at the end. So here is where I hand it off to Senior Product Marketing Manager, Rob Manser.
Great. Thank you, Ashley, and thanks everyone for joining today. As Ashley mentioned, today we'll be talking about customer data validation, what it is. And in this webinar specifically, we'll talk about how it can be used to provide location intelligence and the insights that that can provide for your business. I put together a short agenda. Today, as we talked about, we'll go into customer data validation. We'll dive a little bit into the layers of customer data validation. And then we'll segue over to location intelligence, what that is, and how the services that Service Objects provide supports location intelligence. And at the end, as Ashley said, we'll have time to respond to comments and answer any questions you might have. So with that said, let's dive in. Customer data validation. Last year, IBM estimated that invalid data contributed to nearly almost over $3 trillion in losses in the US alone. This includes your customer data. Your business revolves around your customer data. Ensuring that you capture, enhance, and maintain its accuracy is critical to your business's success. And this is why customer data validation is key. It enables you to verify and append key contact details, including name, address, phone, email, and device, all in less than a second. And the results ensure that you're working with genuine, accurate, and updated customer information. We approach the customer data validation in 4 layers: the integrity check, we then augment and extend that data, we cross-check it, and then we provide quality signals. All of this happens in less than a second, but let's take a look at each one in a little more detail. Fundamental integrity check. Basically what this means is that the data they provide, is it accurate? At the customer data validations 4 layers, what we're looking at here, depending on what's provided, is the accuracy of the customer's name, address, phone, email, and device. And by device, we mean their IP address and some of the data points that are associated with the IP and the device. Each piece of the customer identity is verified in real time against global authoritative data streams. This ensures that you're starting with accurate details before moving them into the next step, which is where we augment and extend the data. Using that updated and accurate data, we're able to append additional data points that can be used for any number of use cases. In this case, we'll be talking about location intelligence. So we'll dive into some of the other data points that are provided that can be used in that case. But there's definitely other data points that come along with this. For example, we might, in an email address, be able to identify that it comes from a free email service, or for phone numbers, we might identify the line type, so you'll know if it's mobile or VoIP. But in the location world, we're going to talk about latitude and longitude and delivery route data, or incorporated versus unincorporated. But even so, once we have been able to add these data points to it, then we can use it to cross-check or make interconnections between the data. And that is using the core customer data and that additional data points. And we build those interconnections, and then we compare those interconnections to see if they're actually who they say they are. So once for a simple example that says, we might cross-check the name and the address the customer provided on a web form with the name and address we were able to derive from the phone number they also provided, as well as maybe look at the location that their IP suggests they are. And by taking all of those data points, we're able to put them together and link them and derive values around whether or not they are who they say they are, and if it's consistent with what they have entered. And this brings us to the final piece, which is the quality signals. This it basically identifies the overall quality and accuracy of the customer record. This is a numeric quality score, which can be used to build business rules around. And for example, you might want to build a business rule that says high-scoring customers are programmatically assigned to your sales team's top performers for immediate contact, or maybe a lower-scoring customer is assigned to a nurture track, and maybe you're going to nurture them up and hopefully get them to that sales team at some point. And as you can imagine, customer data validation has many applications. And like I said, today, we're going to look at how it can support and enhance location intelligence and the issues it can help solve. With regards to location, using a number of provided and derived customer data points, we're able to create a cleaner, more accurate picture of the customer's location, which can be used to support location-specific issues like deliveries. It might help with route planning services, or if we're actually solving delivery problems, you're solving customer service issues, or potentially you're going to use it to identify and combat fraud. As we'll see as we go through this, a lot of times you can identify an address as problematic. Maybe it's a hospital or a prison versus a person's address. Regardless, customer data validation brings together the global authoritative address data and our powerful AI to provide deep, multifaceted location intelligence. So before we dive into that, I did want to ask a quick question. And actually, I think you can put up a poll here. What percentage of your customers' addresses have critical errors? That might result in maybe return mail or undelivered parcels, or maybe you don't even mail them because you don't trust the data. But what percentage do you think your customer addresses have errors in? Great. That's pretty much what I would have expected to see. There's no surprises here. The industry average is around 8%. And whether you're shipping products, sending invoices, or defining a sales area, you can see that having accurate address data is key. And that leads us into the next part of our conversation, location intelligence. Location intelligence is the bringing together of all the different points of data that you can know about a location. Of course, address, longitude, latitude, maybe the demographics. There's tons of different things we can know based on a location. So one of the problems that we commonly see, and one we'll just sort of use as an example here, is your customers provide incorrect or invalid address data at the point of entry, or your existing data that you already have shows signs of decay. And decay, an easy example of decay is maybe one of your customers have moved and they haven't reported that move to you, so a change of address. And this, of course, can result in late deliveries. It creates customer service challenges. It's, of course, a very poor user experience. It might even result in compliance issues if something has to get there on time. And of course, all of this turns into a reputational damage to your brand. So what ServiceObjects has is a number of customer data validation tools that verify and correct and maintain accurate global address and location intelligence. And so we're going to dive into each one of these tools. There's 5 of them that we'll talk about today. But they are, for the most part, it's type ahead or address suggest. And then we have what we do is address validation. We'll address the change of address, no pun intended. We'll look at the address geocode. And lastly, we'll talk about address insight, which is sort of where we pull out some of those extra details that we've been talking about. So to get started, we'll dive into Global Address Complete, which is our address suggesting tool. And it allows customers to quickly select an address as they start to type. And I'm sure you've seen this on many of the web forms out there. It auto-completes their entry, and that reduces keystroke errors, misspellings, and incorrect address entry. This results in faster e-commerce checkouts, improved shipping accuracy, and reduces your cart abandon by as much as 30%. Which then leads us into, once you capture that address, we want to validate it. Now, we offer global address validation services that can correct and standardize addresses to the correct postal format for over 250 countries and territories worldwide. This ensures that your customers receive their packages and communications on time. Our services also provide postal data points for pre-sorting and delivery, enabling you to take advantage of postal and shipping discounts. And I thought it'd be fun to maybe just take a quick peek at a couple of examples of how this works. So we'll just grab a couple. This is our address validation sort of input and output. It's a very simplified version of our API for us to look at. And we'll look at, we'll look at ServiceObjects address for starters. So this is the address provided. It's pretty clean, actually. We're not going to do much correction here, as you'll see over here, but I wanted you to see some of the other things that we'll tell you about. For example, this is delivery point validation. This is a USPS designation. And it's basically saying, yes, this is a valid address for the USPS to deliver to. And we're also telling it that it's a suite which is an important thing. Potentially there's a mailbox room or a mail room for the postal carrier to know about. But more importantly, as we dive down into here, you'll see we're telling you that it's not a residential address. So now you know you're dealing with a business. We're going to give you a barcode for the address. This is an important tool for deduping addresses. We'll also provide the carrier code, which is used for sorting. If you're doing any mass mailings and you want to sort addresses into the specific carrier routes, this is where you can have significant postal savings by sorting and packaging them in their carrier routes. You deliver them to the USPS that way, as well as the Congress code and the county code, and then CAS, which is, this means that CAS certification is the USPS's stamp of approval that the software used to validate addresses meets their criteria of 99.8% accuracy. And so in this case, this address passes CAS. So pretty powerful tool. And the other thing that I'll just point out quickly is we also break the address into its fragments. So if you're inserting this address into a database and you need them into their specific fields, you can use these fragments to map that to your database. So after address validation, we can start to look at, we'll look at geocodes, which are basically longitude and latitude for lack of a better word. And as we discussed earlier, these are some of the other data points that you can derive from an address. These are some of the most powerful ones that you can get. It's meaningful for route planning, for delivery services. It can help with risk assessment. So it uses a combination of both postal and spatial data to return pinpoint accuracy. It expands your geolocation intelligence by translating the addresses and geocoordinates into actionable location data points. And actionable might be, a perfect example might be if you were using drone services to maybe map out a farmer's field as an example. These are specific data points that you could use. They can also be used in shipping, logistics, risk assessment, and marketing segmentation. It provides where it's possible, not all addresses arrive on a rooftop, for example, but where possible, we will give you the longitude and latitude for the rooftop all over the world. And as it's also worth mentioning, and I'll show it in an example here, they can use reverse geocode. So if you have the longitude and latitude, and you want to know the closest mailing address or the mailing address, you can actually put those data points in, and it'll return a mailing address to you. So let's take a quick peek at geocoding here. I'll pick property level match, which is rooftop. And again, we're just going to use our street address at service objects. And what you'll see is this is at the property level or the street level. It matched exactly at the property location. And here are the decimal points, the latitude and decimal points. And we'll also provide the zip +4. In addition to that, we provide the state FIPS, the census block. As I said, a lot of additional data comes with this, and we'll also provide mapping URLs for 3 of the more popular mapping tools that you might see out there. It also has time zones. So if you want to do time zone calculations, again, if you're not using address validation, you can get your Congress code and your state FIPS out of here. So all of these are just some of those other data points that we're talking about where we can extrapolate and give you more location data about the address of the location that you're interested in. As we talked about, people move. In fact, last year alone, 33 million people moved in the United States and filed a change of address with the United States Postal Service. Sorry, didn't click over. Keeping track of these moves and making sure your data reflects these changes is one of the keys to ensuring that you have accurate and up-to-date address information. Our change of address service will go back the last 18 months and look and see if there's been a change of address at the given address, if that address has been reported as changed to another address. And we'll be able to update your data with these updates. It also will come in standardized and formatted to the USPS standards, which helps with postage and preventing return mail and stuff like that. So the next thing that the next service that we like to talk about is location. It provides a lot of location insights. It's called our Address Insight tool. And addresses alone are not always enough to make informed marketing and business decisions. And with Address Insight, you can get location-specific demographics and geocoordinates which provide your business with key strategic details that help you make great decisions. And it can it brings together three of our most popular services or powerful services. And I'll demonstrate that here. It also includes over 15 million non-USPS addresses. Not every address in the United States Postal Service database is deliverable. Or I'm sorry, not every address is in the United States Postal Service because they don't deliver to every address. And so we're also able to bring in over 50 million of those non-USPS addresses. And we'll take a quick peek at Address Insight and some of the things it can provide. This is one of our more powerful tools. Again, I'll just use our business. We can look at some of the other ones in a second here. So again, we're going to tell you that the address is found in the USPS database at the property level. And it will tell you that the zip code, the longitude and latitude coordinates are found, and the zip area and info demographics are provided. And so we're giving you a status score. And we're going to talk about score in just a second here. We're going to give you a status score of 100, meaning we have 100% confidence that the information we're providing here is accurate, meaning we know everything we can about this address. And so as we scroll down, you'll see you'll see things that were familiar from the previous ones. You'll see the barcode, you'll see the zip +4, the carrier route for sorting, the Congress code, and of course the county name. We break the address into the fragments that we've talked about. We talk about the geo coordinates, the longitude and latitude. We'll give you the county FIPS, the state FIPS. Is the zip status? This zip status basically means is it an accurate and active zip code? And we'll give you the not only is this the longitude and latitude for the address, but we'll give you the centroid zip. So potentially you want to know, you want to calculate the distance from the center of the zip code region to the address. You can do that. This is great for route planning and things like that. We'll tell you that it's a city type. We'll tell you the city type. In this case, it's a city. We'll tell you the area code for the phone number and the time zone that they're in, as well as the MSA and the CVSA, which are basically the metropolitan statistical area, and it's used to identify a geographic area. So if you wanted to do any sort of market segmentation, you might be using some of these other. This is the business district. I'm sorry, core business. This one's the core business down here, and this is basically an urban center. So if you're starting to do segmentation, you might use one of these two, saying, "Hey, I only want to send this this mailing campaign to the people." Or how many pieces do I have to print for a mailing campaign in this MSA? This will give you a good idea of the population of MSA. And then lastly, we get into the demographics themselves, where we can start talking about household values. What is the home worth in this area? How many people live in the home? Average household income. And then we can extrapolate that. It will go up into the county and the state income, so you can do some comparisons. All these are great data points for doing marketing segmentation or defining sales areas and whatnot. So those are 5 of our sort of focused address and location intelligence services. They contribute to, they're part of the customer data validation sort of umbrella, if you will, that can provide you with business intelligence and then location intelligence, which results in valuable insights into your business operations and customers. It'll help with making better decisions and hopefully improve customer satisfaction. Where we have seen the most value is we've solved, we have Amazon as a great example. We solve a lot of problems for some very big companies. Delivery accuracy and route optimization, we're definitely used for in this world. In the location intelligence world, we see improved customer segmentation and some insights that are gained from that. People are able to sort of silo these data based on location and make some good decisions there. And in the insurance world, we see a lot of use for risk assessment. A lot of times people need to be able to, or insurance companies need to calculate distance from a risk or a body of water, for example, or maybe a buried gas tank at a gas station. Those are all key data points that an insurance company wants to calculate distance from, because that impacts their insurance rates. So just some of the examples that you'll see location intelligence used for. I hope it's clear how customer data validation is used for addresses and provides that valuable insight. And with that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, Rob, I will kick you off. So, in regards to Global Address Complete, does it validate addresses everywhere?
It is global. The Global Address Complete is the address suggestion tool that we have. It is global by name. The challenge with addresses in the world is we can only, it's a database, and we can only have the database of addresses that are provided. So if in the first world countries with a sophisticated postal service, absolutely, we're going to give you a very accurate address suggestion. If we go into third world countries where maybe there isn't a postal service, or it's not a sophisticated one, or not maintained, it's a little more challenging. But what we have found is that when people want to use this service, they're really talking about using it in first world sophisticated postal systems countries. And so the answer is not everywhere, but where you need it, yes, I think is the best way to answer that.
This is in regards to address validation. Will you automatically update saved addresses if something like the zip plus 4 or city changes?
Our data will automatically get updated. Whether or not your data gets updated or not is really how it depends on how you use the service. So we're always going to have the most current address data available in our systems. If you check that address and it's changed, then you'll get the change. You'll see that there's a change. How you deploy that on your side is more about your business logic and how you've integrated the service into your systems. Sometimes you might, we have seen people who automatically update it. We've also seen other customers where they want an alert that an address has changed. Again, that's on their side to create, but maybe they don't want to update an address without at least some sort of manual review or some notification that it should be updated. But either way, to say it a different way, we will have the authoritative data about the address, and it's up to you when you get that data to update your system and how you do that. So that makes sense.
Regarding address geocode, what if the address isn't totally accurate? Will it still go to the rooftop?
It depends on how inaccurate the address is, to be honest. If you were to say, I don't know, Santa Barbara, California, pretty inaccurate address, and we would give you in that case, we would give you the centroid for the cities. We'd give you the longitude and latitude for the centroid of that city. So the more resolution we can get in the address. So if you get to a zip plus 4, we're going to get a lot closer in the longitude and latitude that we can provide for you. So we can only deliver the longitude and latitude to the degree that you give us a good address. So that being said, if you were to do 123 Main Street, Santa Barbara, California, 93101 and zip plus 4, but 123 Main Street didn't exist, we would go to the next level up that we were able to do. So it's not like we just immediately default out if we can't do it. We'll try and resolve the address. If we can't, we'll go one level back. And that, in this case, the one level back would be the zip plus 4. But if that was wrong, then we would go to the city. And then if that was wrong, we would go to the state. But at some point, it becomes kind of not as useful. But it just depends on the accuracy and the level of resolution of data that you provide that we're able to give back that
Great.
result.
For change of address, will it show me if someone passed away?
No, this is one thing to keep in mind. This isn't about people. These are about addresses. So it's not about who lives at the address. It's just that if that address has changed, meaning someone has filed a change of address from that place to another. It's a little complicated to talk about, but in a deceased situation, we don't know that the person at the address is deceased. We don't access those public records. That starts to turn into personal information as well as public record that we're just not going to touch. We certainly don't want to be wrong in that world, so we'd rather just steer clear of it and let that information come from a different source rather than us.
Makes sense. Last question, Address Insight. What is the confidence score and why should I use that?
Sorry, I meant to cover that when we were looking at it. Good question. The confidence score is how we have it in almost all of our services, where we are going to take the data points that you provide. We're going to do our best to resolve it to the lowest resolution we can, and we're going to tell you how close we got with that. So in Address Insight, the example that we showed with the service objects one, where it got 100%, we were 100% confident. It's a 0 to 100 score. We were 100% confident that this is an accurate result. But let's just say, for example, that we only had zip we didn't have zip plus 4 and we weren't able to resolve the zip plus 4, we might score that at 95% because we can't say with 100% accuracy that that's it. Or in the case of you only gave us the city and the state as an example, we might come back with like a 30% accuracy, depending on what it is. And then the whole point of that score is your team can then write business rules around what you want to do with those results. So maybe 0 to 50 in this scenario, you don't want that data. Maybe you don't trust it. It's not good enough for you to, it's not actionable for you. And maybe that 50 to 80 is, it gives you enough information that you maybe want to, build a nurture campaign around some of the information you got, or maybe that you need to kick that 50 to 80 out to your customer service team to review a piece of the information because you can't get it anywhere else. And then maybe 80 to 100 is this is good to go, and you're ready to put that. You're ready to use that information in your decision making, or maybe in your mailing applications, or in your delivery services, or whatever you might want to, wherever the use case is. And the business rules are always going to reflect whatever your need is there. The nice thing about that we have found over time is that the more you understand that score and the more you can refine it, the better business rules you can build around it. And we're happy to help with that. We have a lot of experience in those areas where we work with our customers. Sometimes either in a deployment, when they've deployed it, they might get back data that they either just it's new and they just don't understand it well enough yet, or more times than not, once they start to apply it to their particular use case, we're able to give them insights that maybe they just haven't seen yet. That after 20 years of doing this, we definitely have some insight into what the data might be suggesting or supporting, and so we can certainly help you with some of that to help write better business rules.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
If anyone has any last minute questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box below. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us today. I think Rob has a think. Yep, there it is, all the information. And we will also be sending an email out with the recording of the webinar as well as the slide deck, so you can go through it at your leisure time. Thank you again, and thank you, Rob. And we will talk with everybody soon.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.